You ever hold a coin that was worth a fortune one day, and basically nothing the next? It sounds impossible, right? I mean, we're talking about actual money here. Metal that's been stamped, certified, traded for centuries. But here's the thing about coins. They're way more fragile than most people think. Not physically fragile, but their value? That can disappear faster than you can say market crash. Throughout history, there have been moments when collectors woke up to find their prized coins had become, well, practically worthless. We're talking about pieces that were selling for thousands, sometimes millions, suddenly worth less than the coffee you bought that morning. Wars ended, governments fell, scandals broke, and entire coin markets just collapsed. Today, we're diving into 10 of the most shocking coin collapses in history. So whether you've got a coin collection gathering dust or you just love a good financial disaster story, stick around, because these 10 coins will show you just how quickly fortunes can vanish and why even the smartest collectors sometimes get caught completely off guard. Number 1. Roman denarii. So here's the thing about Roman coins. They weren't just money, they were basically the internet of the ancient world, connecting every corner of the empire, from rainy Britain to scorching Egypt. For over 400 years, the silver denarius was rock solid. Pure silver, stamped with emperors' faces, worth something real. Then 301 AD happened. Emperor Diocletian had a problem. The empire was broke. Wars were expensive, inflation was getting crazy, and people were starting to lose faith in Roman currency. His solution? Well, it was, let's call it, creative. Instead of fixing the actual problems, Diocletian just changed what money meant. Overnight. He issued his famous edict on maximum prices, basically declaring that coins didn't need to be pure silver anymore. Bronze would do just fine, thanks. Now, imagine you're a Roman citizen waking up that morning. Yesterday, your silver denarii were worth their weight in, well, silver. Today, the emperor says they're worth the same as these new bronze pieces that cost practically nothing to make. The market reaction was not good. Within weeks, real silver coins vanished from circulation. People hoarded them, melted them down, or traded them illegally. The new bronze denarii became basically worthless outside of Rome. Trade ground to a halt in some regions because nobody trusted the new currency. Fast forward to today, and here's where it gets really wild for collectors. For decades, coin enthusiasts have been buying what they thought were authentic silver Roman denarii. Beautiful pieces, supposedly worth thousands. Then modern testing technology came along and revealed that many of these silver coins were actually the bronze replacements from Diocletian's era. Collectors who thought they owned pieces of Roman monetary history. They were holding the coins that helped destroy the Roman economy, the coins that marked the beginning of the end for the Western Roman Empire's currency system. One day you think you own a piece of ancient silver treasure. The next day you find out you've got the equivalent of ancient monopoly money. The irony is almost too perfect. In number 2, Confederate coins, April 9, 1865, Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia. Robert E. Lee surrenders to Ulysses S. Grant. And just like that, millions of Confederate coins and bills become worthless paper and metal. Not over months or years, literally overnight. But here's what makes this collapse so brutal for collectors. It wasn't just about the Civil War ending. It was about how fast an entire monetary system could just vanish. See, during the war, Confederate currency was real money. Sure, it fluctuated, but people used it, traded it, saved it. Confederate coins, especially the rare half-dollars and dollars, were precious metal with real value. Families in the South built their entire savings around Confederate currency, thinking they were securing their future. Then Lee signed that surrender document. Within 24 hours, Confederate currency went from acceptable legal tender to worthless rebellion souvenirs. The U.S. government made it clear: Confederate money would never be honored, never be exchanged, never be worth anything again. Imagine being a Southern family with a jar full of Confederate coins under the floorboards. Your life savings, your children's inheritance, your security, gone. Not stolen, not lost in a fire. Just declared worthless by the winning side. But wait, it gets weirder for modern collectors. Fast forward to the 1960s and 70s. Confederate currency starts becoming popular with Civil War enthusiasts and coin collectors. People are paying serious money for Confederate half dollars, thinking they're buying rare pieces of American history. And they were, sort of. The problem? Most Confederate coins were never actually used as currency during the war. They were restrike reproductions made decades later for collectors. So people were paying premium prices for reproductions of worthless money. The real tragedy happened to families who held onto original Confederate currency, thinking it might someday be worth something again. Generations passed these bills and coins down, treating them like family heirlooms. Someday, they'd say, these will be valuable again. Well, they were right, eventually. But it took over 100 years. Today, genuine Confederate currency is worth money, but only as historical artifacts, not as currency. The irony is thick. Money that became worthless because the Confederacy lost is now valuable because the Confederacy lost. The collectors who got shocked? They discovered their rare Confederate coins were mostly 20th century reproductions of money that was already worthless when it was originally made. Coming in at number 3, German coins during the Weimar Republic hyperinflation. 1923 was supposed to be a recovery year for Germany. World War I was over, the economy was stabilizing, and German coins, especially the beautiful gold marks from the early 1900s, were still considered some of the finest currency in Europe. Collectors worldwide treasured these pieces. Then hyperinflation hit, and it hit like a freight train. We're not talking about regular inflation here. This was economic apocalypse. In January 1923, a loaf of bread cost 250 marks. By November, that same loaf cost 200 billion marks. Yeah, you heard that right. Billion. With a B. Now imagine you're a coin collector in Berlin. You've got a collection of rare German gold coins, each one worth maybe 1,000 marks at the start of the year. Serious money, your retirement plan, basically. By December, those same coins couldn't buy you a cup of coffee. The government was printing money so fast that people literally needed wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy groceries. Workers were paid twice a day because by evening their morning wages were worthless. And those beautiful, rare German coins that collectors had been hoarding, they became paperweights overnight. But here's the really twisted part. Even gold coins lost their purchasing power. Not because the gold became worthless, gold is gold, but because the entire monetary system collapsed so completely that people stopped thinking in terms of marks altogether. They started bartering with cigarettes, food, anything but German currency. Wealthy collectors who had spent decades building their German coin collections watched their fortunes evaporate in real time. We're talking about people who went from rich to destitute in a matter of weeks. Some collectors tried desperately to trade their rare coins for foreign currency, but nobody wanted anything German. The psychological shock was brutal. These weren't just investments, they were symbols of German craftsmanship, history, culture. Watching them become worthless felt like watching the country itself disappear. The hyperinflation finally ended in 1924 when Germany introduced a new currency, but the damage was done. An entire generation of German coin collectors had learned the hardest lesson possible. Sometimes even precious metals can't save you when an entire economy collapses. The coins survived, obviously, but their value? Gone faster than you could count the zeros on a banknote. At number 4, Chinese coins during the Cultural Revolution. This one's different from the others because it wasn't economics that destroyed these coins. It was politics and ideology and fear. Mao Zedong launches the Cultural Revolution, and suddenly everything old becomes the enemy. Ancient traditions? Gone. Classical art? Destroyed. And those beautiful, centuries-old Chinese coins that families had been passing down for generations? Well, they became symbols of feudal oppression. Here's what made this collapse so brutal. It wasn't market forces or inflation. It was your own government telling you that owning old coins made you a traitor to the revolution. Imagine you're a Chinese family with a collection of Song Dynasty coins, maybe Qing Dynasty silver pieces, coins that had been in your family for 200, 300 years. Real treasures, historical artifacts worth serious money. Then overnight, the Red Guards declare that keeping these coins means you're clinging to the old society. The choice? Destroy them yourself, or be destroyed. Families were literally forced to smash their own coin collections in public ceremonies, melting down silver coins to prove their loyalty to the Communist Party, taking ancient bronze pieces that had survived wars, invasions, and natural disasters for centuries, and throwing them in furnaces. Collectors didn't just lose money, they were forced to participate in destroying their own heritage. But here's where it gets really heartbreaking. Some families couldn't bring themselves to destroy everything. They buried coins in gardens, hid them in walls, sealed them in jars, and buried them in remote locations. Parents would whisper to their children, "Remember where this is buried, someday, maybe." The Cultural Revolution lasted 10 years. 10 years where owning an old coin could get you sent to a labor camp, where having a collection marked you as an intellectual or bourgeois element, both dangerous labels. When it finally ended in 1976, families started digging, literally, searching for the coins they'd hidden, the pieces they'd buried to save from destruction. Some got lucky. They found their buried treasures, sometimes in perfect condition after a decade underground. But many, the hiding spots were forgotten, destroyed, or discovered by others. Entire family fortunes lost not to economic collapse, but to political terror. Modern Chinese coin collectors still deal with this legacy. There's this massive gap in the market, coins that should exist but don't, because they were systematically destroyed during the Cultural Revolution. The ones that survived? They're worth fortunes now, but only because so many others were lost forever. Number 5. The Morgan silver dollar disaster of the 1980s. Morgan silver dollars were America's sweetheart coins. Beautiful, hefty, iconic, with Lady Liberty on one side and that majestic eagle on the other. For decades, they were the crown jewel of American coin collecting. Serious collectors would pay thousands for rare dates, tens of thousands for mint condition pieces. Then, 1980s technology came along and, well, it ruined everything. See, up until the 80s, authenticating coins was mostly about experience. Veteran collectors could feel the weight, examine the details, check the patina. It was an art form, and for the most part, it worked pretty well. But when advanced metallurgical testing and high-resolution photography became accessible, holy crap, the coin world got a wake-up call that nobody saw coming. Turns out, a massive percentage of rare Morgan dollars in circulation were fakes. Not just a few here and there. We're talking about 60% or more of certain key dates. The 1893S, the 1895, the 19030. Coins that collectors had been trading for decades were revealed to be sophisticated counterfeits. The really brutal part? These weren't obvious fakes, they were good, really good, made with period-appropriate silver, aged artificially, detailed enough to fool experts. Some of these counterfeits had been circulating in the collector market for 30, 40 years. Imagine you're a Morgan dollar specialist. You've spent 20 years building what you think is a world-class collection. You've got pieces worth $50,000, $100,000. Your pride and joy. Then the new authentication services start testing coins with X-ray fluorescence and electron microscopy. Results come back fake, 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 fake. Collectors who thought they were millionaires discovered they owned elaborate reproductions. Auction houses had to pull entire lots. Dealers who had built their reputations on Morgan dollars found their inventory was worthless. The psychological damage was incredible. It wasn't just about losing money, it was about losing trust. If you couldn't trust a Morgan dollar, the most collected American coin, what could you trust? The market never fully recovered. Even today, genuine Morgan dollars trade at lower premiums than they should, because buyers are paranoid about fakes. Authentication became mandatory, expensive, and time-consuming. The irony is perfect. Technology that was supposed to protect collectors ended up revealing just how vulnerable they'd always been. Those safe investments? They were anything but safe. And somewhere out there, master counterfeiters were probably laughing, because they'd fooled an entire generation of collectors. Coming in at number 6, Soviet platinum coins that never officially existed. This story is absolutely wild because it combines the collapse of a superpower with one of the most elaborate coin frauds in history. During the 1970s and 80s, rumors started circulating in Western coin collecting circles about rare Soviet platinum coins. Gorgeous pieces, supposedly minted in limited quantities for high-ranking Communist Party officials. The story went that these coins were too sensitive to be publicly acknowledged, but they existed. Western collectors went crazy for them. I mean, think about it. Platinum coins from behind the Iron Curtain, secret government issue, limited mintage. It had everything collectors love: rarity, mystery, political intrigue. Dealers started importing these Soviet platinum pieces through various channels. Each coin came with elaborate documentation, official-looking certificates, the whole 9 yards. Prices were steep, we're talking $10,000, $20,000, sometimes more for particularly rare specimens. Collectors ate it up. Here was a chance to own a piece of secret Soviet history, something that wasn't supposed to exist but did. The ultimate insider's treasure. Then 1991 happened. The Soviet Union collapsed. Suddenly, former Soviet officials were talking, archives were opening, records were becoming available, and Western collectors finally got a chance to verify their precious Soviet platinum coins. The verdict? Most of them were complete fabrications, not counterfeits of real coins, but coins that were never officially minted by the Soviet government at all. The elaborate documentation? Forged. The certificates? Fake. The provenance stories? Complete fiction. Here's the really twisted part. Some of these Soviet platinum coins were actually minted in Western countries, then artificially aged and given fake Soviet documentation. The platinum was real, the craftsmanship was real, but the historical significance was pure fantasy. Western collectors who had spent decades building Soviet coin collections discovered they'd been buying expensive fiction. We're talking about millions of dollars in losses across Europe and America. The scandal broke gradually through the 1990s as more information emerged from former Soviet states. Each revelation made the situation worse. Collectors who thought they owned ultra-rare government pieces found out they'd been victims of an international con game. But here's the kicker. Some dealers kept selling these coins even after the truth came out, marketing them as fantasy pieces or unofficial issues. Because apparently some collectors would rather own fake Soviet coins than admit they'd been fooled. The Soviet platinum scandal taught collectors a harsh lesson. Political secrecy and coin collecting don't mix well. When you can't verify authenticity through official channels, you're basically gambling with very expensive metal. At number 7! Iraqi gold dinars and the invasion that made them worthless overnight. This one's brutal because it wasn't just about collectors getting fooled, it was about dealers exploiting American patriotism to sell worthless coins during wartime. Early 2003, the Iraq War is ramping up, and suddenly Iraqi gold dinars start appearing in American coin shops and online auctions. The pitch was irresistible. Support our troops by investing in Iraqi currency. When Saddam falls and Iraq rebuilds, these dinars will skyrocket in value. Dealers marketed these coins as guaranteed investments. They'd show you charts of how German marks recovered after World War II, how Japanese yen bounced back after their reconstruction. The logic seemed sound. Regime change equals currency opportunity. Americans bought millions of dollars worth of Iraqi dinars. Not just collectors, regular people who wanted to support the war effort and make money at the same time. Patriotism plus profit, what could go wrong? Well, everything. March 20th, 2003, the invasion begins. April 9th, Saddam's regime falls. And just like that, Iraqi dinars become worthless paper. But wait, it gets worse. The new Iraqi government didn't honor Saddam-era currency. They issued completely new dinars, making the old ones literally toilet paper. Not worthless as an investment, worthless as currency, period. American investors who thought they were buying into Iraq's future discovered they'd bought into Iraq's past, a past that the new government wanted to erase completely. The dealers who sold these coins? They disappeared faster than Saddam's army. The guaranteed returns they promised? Pure fiction. The historical parallels with post-war Germany and Japan? Completely irrelevant because those countries kept their currencies. Iraq didn't. Families lost life savings, retirees lost their nest eggs, veterans who bought dinars thinking they were investing in the country they'd served got scammed by the very dealers who claimed to support the troops. The really sick part? Some dealers kept selling Iraqi dinars even after the regime change, claiming the new government might eventually honor the old currency. They preyed on hope, desperation, and continued patriotism. This wasn't just a coin market collapse. It was a con game that used the Iraq War as cover. Dealers wrapped themselves in the flag while stealing from the very people who supported American foreign policy. The lesson? When someone tells you to invest in a dictator's currency because regime change is coming, run. Run fast. Because when regimes change, the first thing they usually do is burn the old money. Iraqi gold dinars taught American investors an expensive lesson about mixing patriotism with coin collecting. Number 8. Physical Bitcoin coins and the crypto crash that killed two markets at once. This story is perfect because it shows how new technology can create entirely new ways to lose money on coins. Like, we thought we'd seen every possible way for coins to become worthless. Then cryptocurrency came along and said, "Hold my beer." 2017 was peak crypto madness. Bitcoin was hitting $20,000, everyone was talking about digital currency, and then someone had a brilliant idea. Why not make physical Bitcoin coins? These weren't actual Bitcoins, obviously. They were commemorative coins, usually gold-plated or made from precious metals, with Bitcoin logos and cryptocurrency themes. Some had embedded QR codes or private keys loaded with small amounts of actual Bitcoin. Luxury collectibles for the crypto crowd. Tech collectors went absolutely nuts for them. Here were physical representations of the digital revolution. Coins that bridged traditional collecting with cutting-edge technology. Prices were insane. $500, $1,000, sometimes $5,000 for fancy gold-plated pieces. The marketing was genius. Own a piece of the cryptocurrency revolution. Physical Bitcoin for the digital age. When Bitcoin hits $100,000, these will be priceless. Then 2018 happened. Bitcoin crashed from $20,000 to $3,200. The entire crypto market collapsed. Suddenly, nobody wanted anything to do with cryptocurrency, including physical cryptocurrency coins. But here's where it gets really brutal. These physical Bitcoin coins got hit with a double whammy. First, the crypto crash killed demand from cryptocurrency enthusiasts. Second, traditional coin collectors never took them seriously in the first place. So you had this weird market that was too new for traditional collectors and too crashed for crypto investors. Physical Bitcoin coins became orphans. Nobody wanted them. Collectors who paid $2,000 for gold-plated Bitcoin commemoratives found themselves with coins worth maybe $50. The melt value of the gold plating. The embedded Bitcoin private keys? Worth pennies compared to what they used to be. The psychological shock was incredible. These people thought they were investing in the future of money. They saw themselves as early adopters, visionaries, pioneers. Instead, they became cautionary tales about mixing trends with coin collecting. Some physical Bitcoin coins had additional problems. The embedded electronics started failing. QR codes became unreadable. Private keys got corrupted. So not only were they worth less, some literally stopped working. The irony is beautiful. Physical coins created to celebrate digital currency, destroyed by digital currency's volatility. It's like the market ate itself. Today, physical Bitcoin coins exist in this weird limbo, too recent to be historically significant, too tied to crypto to appeal to traditional collectors, too crashed to interest crypto investors. They're basically the pet rocks of the coin world, expensive reminders of when everyone thought the future was guaranteed. At number 9, Zimbabwean coins and the hyperinflation that made trillion-dollar coins worthless. This story is insane because it's recent history, like this happened in our lifetime. And it shows how modern governments can still completely destroy their own currency in spectacular fashion. Early 2000s, Zimbabwe under Robert Mugabe starts having serious economic problems. Land redistribution goes wrong, agriculture collapses, and the government's solution is print more money, lots more money. At first, Zimbabwean dollars were actually decent collectibles. Exotic currency from Southern Africa, interesting designs, reasonable exchange rates. Currency collectors picked them up as interesting additions to their world coin collections. Then the hyperinflation kicked in, and it was absolutely bonkers. We're talking about inflation rates that make the Weimar Republic look stable. In 2008, Zimbabwe's annual inflation rate hit 231 million%. Yeah, you heard that right, million%. The government kept printing bigger and bigger denominations. $10,000 coins, $100,000 coins, $1 million coins, then $1 billion coins, then $1 trillion coins. Currency collectors watched this happen in real time. and many thought they were witnessing history. This is incredible, they thought. I'm collecting coins from one of the worst hyperinflations in human history. Some collectors actually bought Zimbabwean trillion-dollar bills and coins thinking they'd be valuable as historical curiosities. After all, how often do you see trillion-dollar currency? But here's the twisted irony. These trillion-dollar coins couldn't buy you a loaf of bread in Zimbabwe. The government was printing money so fast that by the time coins were minted and distributed, they were already worthless. By 2009, Zimbabwe gave up entirely. They stopped using their own currency and switched to the US dollar and South African rand. Just abandoned their money completely. Collectors holding Zimbabwean coins suddenly had metal that wasn't even currency anymore. Not devalued currency, abandoned currency. The government literally quit their own money. But wait, there's a final twist. Today, Zimbabwean trillion-dollar bills and coins are actually worth something again, but not as money. They're worth money as jokes, novelty items, conversation pieces. People buy them on eBay as gag gifts or to show friends what hyperinflation looks like. So Zimbabwean currency went from worthless to valuable again, but for completely different reasons. It's valuable because it's so spectacularly worthless. The ultimate irony? Some Zimbabwean coins are now worth more as curiosities than they ever were as actual currency. Sometimes being completely worthless makes you valuable again. And finally, at number 10, Brexit commemorative coins and the political delays that made historic coins premature. This is the most recent disaster on our list, and it's still playing out today. It shows how modern politics can create brand new ways for coins to become worthless, even when they're made by official government mints. June 23, 2016. Brexit referendum passes. Britain votes to leave the European Union. Immediately, the Royal Mint announces commemorative Brexit coins. Historic moment, they said. Collector's items for the ages. The first batch was scheduled for March 29, 2019, the original Brexit deadline. Collectors pre-ordered thousands of coins celebrating Britain's departure from the EU on that specific date. March 29th comes and goes. Britain doesn't leave. Brexit gets delayed. The Royal Mint has to scrap the entire first batch. Thousands of coins with the wrong date, celebrating an event that didn't happen when it was supposed to happen. But wait. It gets worse. They announce new coins for the revised deadline. October 31st, 2019. More pre-orders, more collector excitement, more historic moment marketing. October 31st. Another delay, another batch of wrong date coins. Then they tried again for January 31st, 2020. And this time, Brexit actually happened. Sort of. Britain left the EU but entered a transition period that lasted until December 2020. So now collectors are sitting on coins that say Britain left the EU when, technically, Britain was still following EU rules for most of 2020. The coins were both right and wrong at the same time. The market response was brutal. Collectors who bought Brexit coins as investments watched their value plummet. Who wants to buy a commemorative coin for an event that got delayed 3 times and then happened gradually over 2 years? Even worse, the Royal Mint kept producing Brexit coins throughout this mess. Different dates, different designs, different slogans. The market got flooded with Brexit commemoratives, most of them marking events that either didn't happen when they said they would, or didn't happen the way they said they would. British collectors learned a harsh lesson about buying commemorative coins for ongoing political events. When you're commemorating something that hasn't actually finished happening, you're basically gambling on politicians keeping their promises. The Brexit coin disaster is still unfolding. Years later, collectors are still trying to figure out which Brexit coins are historically accurate and which ones are expensive mistakes. The irony is perfect. Coins meant to celebrate Britain taking back control ended up showing just how little control anyone had over the Brexit process, including the Royal Mint. Sometimes the most historic events make the worst commemorative coins, especially when nobody can agree on when the event actually happened. And there you have it. 10 coins that went from treasure to trash faster than you could say market crash. From ancient Roman silver to modern Brexit chaos, the pattern is always the same. One day you're holding a fortune, the next day you're holding expensive metal with stories nobody wants to hear. But here's the thing about these disasters. They all teach us something important about the weird, unpredictable world of coin collecting. So what can we learn from all this financial wreckage? Stick around, because we're about to dig into the lessons that might just save your collection from becoming number 11 on this list.